Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. My name is Jose, I am a Golden in Kendo, and today we're going to be watching some Kendo videos that I took from the Tosai Taiko Taikai, which is the S versus West All Japan tournament. And yeah, we're going to be talking about Kendo, training drills, tips, and anything you might have a question for. You can let me know in the chat and I'll do my best to answer it. If you haven't, please make sure to hit the like button. It really helps the stream get pushed out to more people. And also, just let me know that you're here and you're enjoying the content. So let me just make sure that I'm fully set up here. I'm trying to do these streams more towards the weekend, but because life and things, I couldn't do it over the weekend, so I'm doing it today. And it's Monday for me. I think it's Monday pretty much for everybody now around the world. And yep. So kind of want to go over. I was debating what to do for the stream today because yesterday I participated in a tournament here in Japan, and I kind of wanted to share a little bit of that experience, but because I don't have the videos yet, I don't want to, just not show, any of the videos. But maybe I'll do that for next week. It was an interesting experience. I feel how I'm progressing on the things that I'm working on for my Kendo, but I also need to focus on some different things when I'm going for Shiai, and I kind of want to share some of those experiences because I think they are very important to switch the mentality between testing, preparing for test, and then going to competition. Although I think all of the aspects of Kendo kind of complement each other, and you should have all of them. You should compete, obviously do your testing and regular practice. Everything should connect with each other. Anyways, the thing that I like the most about this tournament that I'm going to be showing videos today is that it's very high level competitors, and I got to see many people from different ranks, members of police, members of the Japanese team, winners of the All Japan Kendo Championship, and all this performance was really cool. I think I mentioned a little bit about this tournament a few streams ago, where the tournament is pretty much a big team competition. So East and West pick their players, and it's each player gets one fight, and that's how it goes. And it was very cool, very interesting to watch, and I want to share some of that today. So if you guys have any questions, anything that you would like to comment, anything, please leave it down in the comment box. What I'm going to do before I go into the video, hold on, where's this thing? Okay, is let you know that we have a Kendo Tips Discord server. If you would like to be part of the server, the link is popping up on the chat. Okay, that's a good way to reach me. If you would like to send a message, if you have any questions, you can do so there when I'm not live, obviously. Okay, let's go here. Sorry, like all these windows kind of don't show up here. Okay, so the videos that I'm going to be sharing today are in my Kendo channel. So if you would like, maybe I can just share the playlist. Okay, there we go. Okay. I'm going to put the playlist in the chat. There we go. So if anybody would like to come back later and watch the videos on your own, feel free to do so. Okay, so in this Shiai is Nabeyama Sensei and Suemasu Sensei. Nabeyama is from the east side and Suemasu is from the west side. So Nabeyama is going to be on the right side, on red. Nabayama Sensei has a really cool approach to men, and he has a very strong man. Um, so I always enjoy watching his matches because of that. Ian, yes, he's a professor at Tsukuba University, and yeah, he's awesome. And obviously, students at Tsukuba University are pretty awesome too. There's a couple of things that I've been focusing lately, especially thinking about my approach to my opponent. Um, One of them being how to move smoothly and very quickly being able to engage into a technique if I need to. So if you watch, break this down a little bit, but if you watch Nabeyama Sensei on this exchange here, you see he's gonna come close the distance, and every time that he takes a step, he re-engages the back leg. Obviously, depending on how far the opponent is going, it depends how smooth, how short your steps are going to be. Right now, for me specifically, working on those shorter step without them feeling choppy. I don't know if that's a good word for that, but without them feeling choppy, it's been a little bit of a challenge because I feel that I'm too tense as I'm coming forward, and makes it a little bit hard to make smooth transition into stepping and attack. One cool thing that I'm noticing from myself and the people that I'm practicing with is how to use the body to put pressure and at the same time not committing immediately into a technique. So kind of putting pressure, holding back, and then throwing ourselves forward, right? So that's a big part when it comes to understanding how to have a communication with your opponent, not to randomly come in and attack. I'm saying that because it often happens, especially in testing, that we come into this rhythm, right? Or I see many people testing, especially for like Shodan, Nida, and even Sandan. People attack, come in, attack, come in, attack, come in, attack, and it just becomes kind of predictable. So yeah, I don't remember what happened here. So they gave Hansoku to Suama Sensei, and I want to kind of go back. So from back here, it looks like he's making distance. He's stepping back. I don't know if it's because he came in with that. Because I know we're not supposed to, right? But I don't think I've seen it to be that strict at a tournament. Anyways. Oh, very nice exchange. So, sorry for the poor camera work there. So, in this exchange, Nabeyama Sensei is taking the initiative to come in, being the first one to kind of close the distance there, and White decides to respond with a technique, but because Nabeyama Sensei was ready, I feel that that kind of kept them safe, and it made it so where like there was no technique, right? But I think we have to remember that both of these competitors are very high level, so kind of breaking that center, making an opening tends to be a little bit hard. Um, so it's interesting to watch. Ian, you're asking if I'm doing Shimpan in Japan lately. I have not done Shimpan officially at a tournament or anything like that here in Japan. I mentioned earlier that I participated in a tournament yesterday, but as a competitor, not as a Shimpan. It was a good experience to see um, at this tournament how the rules are being implemented. Um, Sorry, I'm getting a little bit distracted because my dogs are like playing and just being very loud. Morty, Sophie. Anyways, so I haven't done shimpanning, but I've been watching a lot of shimpanning here, and especially watching shimpanning like for kids and adults. It's very interesting. But the main thing is how the rules are being practiced here. The new rules are being practiced, so it feels normal now. I don't know if for everybody else is the same, but for me, just the fact that the the fight flows. I don't know if that makes sense. So I don't see any difference when it comes in performance with the rules back in the day. But right now, I feel that the fight flows, and it just makes it a little bit more interactive because people are not kind of like holding back the clock by going for an extreme amount of Suba Serie. So it feels that it goes better. So uh, oh, cool! You switched the account, so that's very it's very cool. Now you're what's it called? Moderator here. So thank you very much for doing it. So yeah, that was my thoughts. Let me keep going with the. Sorry guys, I'm a little bit thrown off because my dogs are just being obnoxious. Okay, so lately, as I mentioned earlier, I am observing a lot of not only the pressure, like the seme and the tame, but also the different responses. And I find it very interesting. If you see here, Soemasa Sensei puts pressure forward. I think this is a very long step to take, but the good thing is that he's ready to go forward. Yet he feels the pressure back from Nabeyama Sensei. So after he pushes forward, Nabeyama Sensei kind of replies with coming in and makes it where he has to kind of go back. So very, very interesting exchange. Yeah, not much to moderate right now. So again, kind of keeping on that topic of semi and tame, look at Nabeyama Sensei on the left right now, how he takes, okay, maybe a little bit further back. He takes kind of a half step forward, right? Where like he brings his forward leg. Let's see. So he takes a full step here. I'm trying to go frame by frame here. Okay, he returns this pressure here. This is not the point where I wanted to watch. So I don't know if you can see that subtle use of the upper body to kind of give the feeling of coming in, yet he doesn't tilt. And that's something that I feel that I struggle a little bit, maybe I struggle a lot with when senses were explaining this to me, right? Like you want to kind of have that feeling, but at the same time, you don't want to lean in. So it's a very interesting point to study, I think, for me at least, where you see how he has that forward intention. Okay, let me go back a little bit. He takes that step in, kind of gives that feeling that he's gonna go forward, and then look at his upper body. Very subtly, just like makes it where like he's pushing in forward. All these subtle movements can create a reaction from the opponent, and just being ready and using all these tools to kind of make an opening. It's important to start picking up and learning, but most importantly, at least for me, is as you're picking up these tools, not creating bad habits. Because as I mentioned, for me, just kind of giving that feeling, at the beginning I wasn't doing it properly, where instead of kind of giving that feeling of my whole body coming in, it was mostly just my head, my shoulders kind of tipping in, right? And that's completely the opposite of what he's trying to do, or what we should be trying to do, and at least that's what I'm told, right? Oh, very interesting timing. And I really like Kashido, so that's why I'm making the point to stop here. So one of the things that I don't get tired of saying this, and I feel that, you know, even to myself, it keeps happening, that a lot of times if you're standing there waiting for that men to do Kaeshi, you are most likely going to be late, or you're gonna get stroke, right? But if you notice here what he's doing, he's putting pressure, and he's almost like he's gonna come in for men, and then doing the Kaeshido. It wasn't Nippon, but I think the intention, the motion and everything, I think it was very good, very sharp. If you notice, a lot of the reactions in this type of moments is not to go back, but also like it's not only to go back, it's to also go forward and challenge the person. So this man, distance in kendo can be something very tricky sometimes, right? If you look at this man at this position, you would think that this man is really far, right? Like he's throwing his man really far. Granted, he's trying to compensate for the fact that his opponent is going backwards, right? And a lot of times I talk about the ability to attack from far versus attacking from far as a what's it called, as a purposeful thing. In my experience, and for what everybody here is telling me, what all the senses that I practice with are telling me, give me 1 second. If you're constantly attacking from this distance, and even from this distance, it can become very predictable to be counter. So having the ability to attack this far doesn't mean that you always want to be attacking from this far, because you want to create pressure, you want to have a communication with your opponent, and then anticipate an opening and attack. Here, Nabayama Sensei is throwing, he has the ability to go far, yet it's not like he's attacking from far. He's compensated for the fact that his opponent is moving back. Does that make sense? I mean, oh, that's such a good man. So I feel like at this point, Nabayama Sensei overwhelmed his opponent to make them come in, and took advantage of the fact that he's already moving forward. And you see, he's already moving forward. And then when his opponent is coming in, taking that opportunity to come in, he's already pre-engaged to take the point. It's a little bit easier to watch in full time. Now, another point that it's something that I've been drilled on when it comes to reach or to come to distance, it's the ability to have a strong and good technique at a very short distance. Because most of the times, a lot of the opportunities you're gonna get are when your opponent is coming in forward, rather from them going away or you attacking from far, right? So in this case, his opponent came in forward. He's already with the mentality of going forward, and he pretty much hits men on the spot, right? Not only he hits it on the spot, but he's also hitting it with proper distance, right? He's not going too deep. So having the ability to do a very strong hit at this distance, I feel that sometimes we don't really pay attention to it, especially with Gunsanshin. And I feel that this is kind of textbook when it comes to that type of men. It's a very, very, very interesting approach. Yeah, you say makes sense. Oh, happy to see a Shinais. Yep, I have the Shinais. I brought them from Miami, and they've been here with me. I just haven't done many streams, so but hopefully, I'll be getting back into these more often. So I'll be using them a lot. Okay. If I remember correctly, that was the only point of the match. So we gotta remember that this is also a team competition, right? So although we're seeing an individual fight, the scoring for the tournament, it's on it's what's it called, on team basis. So the points go for the team. So not losing more points helps the team take an advantage as well. So very, very very, very good to think about the strategy when you're fighting in individual or team, because a lot of times it happens that you might get greedy and say, okay, I want to get another point, or oh my god, I just got hit, now I want to take the point back. Where sometimes the play might be, okay, can you hold it? Maybe that other person, it's very strong, and you need to kind of work yourself to help the team to make sure that you don't get hit more. So risking unnecessarily is very important to understand. Like, not risking unnecessarily is very important to understand. So this one I recorded because it was a Jordan player, and I always enjoy watching Jordan matches and how to fight against Jordan and how Jordan players fight, to study both sides. So hopefully you enjoy this one. Guys, if you haven't, please hit the like button. Oh, I remember this, man. That was so good. We're gonna watch it. Sorry that I start by interrupting it. But if you haven't, please hit the like button. And if you could, please let me know where you're watching from. Lately, there's been a lot of new subscribers, so it will be interesting to know where people are watching from. Anyways, who's this? Jan, you're saying here is Hara Sensei on red and Sakuchi. Oh, sorry. Hara on white and Sakuchi on red. I forgot where they're from. This is such a crazy. This is one of those that when you're fighting Jordan, you cannot really kind of fall asleep, right? And I think that's what happened here. You see, like, he had the forward intention, but then he kind of went back to relax. Now, I actually I asked who was it that I asked? Hirano-san or Kusano? Okay, I asked one of the Jordan players at Osaka Fuke, and we were talking about different strategies to approach against Jordan, and he was telling me that sometimes players like to pretend they relax in order to get the men to come in so they can do suriage wasa, or kaeshi wasa. So it's very important that if you're gonna do that, you're going to be sharp on going forward. So I think at this point maybe Sakuchi Sensei kind of felt that he took advantage of the fact that he did it when the sword was coming down, right? When he's still kind of like getting into that position. So it took him a little bit too long to react to come against that man. So it's also very risky. So something to keep in mind. Hermano from Brazil, welcome to the stream. Thank you for passing by. Thank you for letting me know where you're coming from, where you're watching from. Sorry. So I think I always say it, but a very dangerous spot to be in. I think he's kind of falling asleep a lot on that. But a very dangerous spot to be in is to cover your men against Jordan players like this, because then your pocket becomes very vulnerable. So something to keep in mind. Oh, Jan, where are you gonna be in US? Are you gonna bring your buggy? So something very interesting for me is also understanding how, as a Jordan player, to give pressure, and understanding as a Chudan player how to give pressure to Jordan, but at the same time kind of understanding each other, where that pressure is coming from, how it's happening, And I kind of wanted to have a conversation with a few of the senseis that I practice with, kind of to talk specifically about the difference between a feint and semi, right? I kind of would like to have kind of their words on it, right? But sometimes it kind of like the line might be blurred, right? And if you watch here how Red tries to get a reaction from the opponent, you watch, starts going kind of slow. Okay, so he uses, oh wait, oh, I didn't go far enough. So there's like a little bit of a, I want to call it a hiccup or something like that. Right? There's a little bit of a motion. And like there's a breaking of the timing, right? One thing that, for me at least, and based on the conversations that I have had, I see it more as semi in this opportunity because he's using his body to come in. It's not just kind of like just throwing his arms, and I know that the lines are very like this. It's a very thin line between the two of them, but he's using his whole body. Maybe he just kind of after that just went in, right? So maybe he could have hold a little bit longer to try to watch the reaction and then act accordingly. Maybe there was just no opening and he shouldn't have gone. I don't know. But it's a very interesting, for me at least, study to kind of start figuring out how can you give pressure to your opponent, like how to do semi, and still be in control of yourself. Because a lot of times I feel like, and this is another thing that kind of like I have conversation I had with senseis too, that when I do a feint, right, it's like either like it's not like I'm not in control. I'm just kind of like trying to just get any reaction. Where when you're putting pressure with your body, when you're trying to get that pressure with closing the distance and those subtle movements, it's a little bit more control, I guess. I don't know if I'm using the right wording, and again, that's something that I wanna have a good conversation with senseis about. Rockstar80, hello from Chicago area. Any tips on how to gauge distance with Jodan players? You're neat and you find yourself having trouble since their Shinai is up. Also, how do you apply pressure to them? Thank you for the support on the channel. Okay, I'll talk about it in a second, or at least what I know. Yeah, and you said you will visit New Orleans a week. Oh, that's a nice place to be. Good food. So let me know how you enjoy it. You're planning to take Bogu. Okay, they will be in Japan and there will be no practice this week. That sucks. Yeah, because it's kind of a little bit from New Orleans, a little bit uncomfortable to drive to the closest practice, a little bit far. So tough luck. So, well, if you come to Japan, I know you got places to go. So, but if you're in Osaka, let me know. Avi, welcome to the stream. Thank you for passing by. You're 4 weeks to your country nationals. Are you going to win this time, bro? Like I'm rooting for you, man. You gotta do clear ippon so that way nobody can say no. That's not an ippon. For those you don't know, Avi does nito, so it's kind of tough, I guess, for him sometimes. Right? So. Oh, cool. Yeah, and please send me a message because I keep forgetting and I need to tell you something too. So if you can send me a message and I'll reply to it after the stream, that would be awesome. So guys, this is about Jodan. So the first thing I feel that it's important is understanding your distance against Jodan, right? So against Jodan, the distance is the same, right? It's just, how do I say this? The distance and the feel of pressure is the same. they might feel a little bit more comfortable. It's like fighting a taller opponent, I guess, because they might feel a little bit more comfortable to attack you from a little bit further than maybe if you're both at the same height. So maybe they feel more comfortable to attack you from a little bit further rather than the distance that you will attack them in. But understanding your proper distance and how to approach them with caution and not overreact defensively, because it's really easy for to see the sword up there and wanting to cover it immediately, right? So one sensei I practice with, he does Nito and Jordan too, Abby. So he says you have to kind of keep in mind when they're getting that moment ready to come into attack, and that's when you should be worried, I guess. But besides that, you should always try to kind of come in and give them pressure. The idea, if you think about it, the idea in Chudan to make an opening is that you want to give pressure, and the shinai can go down, can go up, can go to the sides, and based on that is where you're going to throw your technique. So for Jordan players, you also have to be prepared. And I'm not the best against Jordan players, by the way, so don't experiment on your own and ask your sensei. But the main thing is that you want to kind of give the same approach where you're going to put pressure and make them feel uncomfortable. Sometimes a good way to do so is by training the kote, and you're training this kote, so when they go this way, then this kote can be open, or when they go this way, the tsuki can be open. That can also be very dangerous because they can still come in and get men. So you have to be really good at landing that and have good timing, and have Shimpan that will see it as well. But ideally, those are two good targets. The other one is if you get them confident enough to go for men or frustrated enough to come for men, Suriage men. It's for me, it's one of the best techniques to do against Jordan players. What else? But when it comes to distance, the main thing is that you have to understand your reach, and you gotta understand how you approach them is going to affect them. I'm not gonna say that there is a perfect distance to attack from, just as there's no perfect distance to attack from Chudan as well, because as we talked before, you can attack from here, especially if the opponent is coming in, you can attack. You can close the distance a little bit, and as you put the pressure and you get the opening, you can attack. So you have a lot of wiggle room to attack. Same thing against a Jordan player, but you want to really try to get confident on getting what reactions you're getting from your opponent. So a suggestion for that I actually got from the sensei that I'm telling you about, that he does Nito on Jordan, is that you want to build up your patterns, have some different patterns of approaching your opponent. So I kind of wanted to make a video about that, so maybe I should get on that. But having different patterns so you can change the timing and change the way that your body looks to your opponent is very important. And also, if you have those patterns in your head, you don't have to think about it because it happens. And please tell me in the comments if this has happened to you, that you're fighting against somebody, maybe in Shiai, you keep attacking, and then you start getting frustrated because you're not getting any opportunities, right? Everything gets deflected, everything gets like knocked out. And then you start doing things that you normally don't practice, right? Like maybe like you're in Chudan and then all of a sudden you start throwing katate men, or you never dot ski and so you just throw ski just because you don't know what else to do, right? And the funny thing or the interesting thing is that it's not about what technique you're going to get the ippon with. The techniques that you should be shuffling or you should be changing around is how you approach your opponent, right? So a lot of times when we talk about technique, we only count kote, men, do, tsuki as a technique. But the truth is that you have different combinations, not only with your footwork, but also with your sword to create an opening, right? Like harai, osae, makiwaza, so that you have different diversity that you can take advantage of. But if you kind of just lose your cool and start doing random things, you never get to change really what's causing you not to get that opening. So does that make sense? I hope that makes sense, because I think it's something that should really practice and we should build up. Yeah, let me know what you think about that. VKKV, if you keep, okay, let me just switch here so I can have conversation with you guys in the screen. Let me just make sure everything is good. Okay. I don't know why I don't like how this camera is looking lately. But VKKV, if you keep someone in the man, if you keep hitting someone in the man 5 times in a row and all they do is Mukaetsuki, that means that you didn't get an opening. It's annoying, especially when it's a higher level person doing it to you at the dojo. But a lot of times it's also, and I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, but sometimes it's people just being lazy. I don't know what the situation is, so I'm not gonna say that person's being lazy, but it can get annoying because you keep getting stuck there. But if you think about it, it's not about the men. It's about the fact that you didn't make an opening to get that sword out of the way. So lately, and it's interesting. It's interesting. The dojo where I'm practicing right now, pretty much everybody is 7 dan and above. I looked at the roster today, and there's in the rosters is 8 hachidans in the dojo. They don't all come, right, all the time, but the fact that they all this level can show up is very cool for me. And especially as the senseis are helping me progress in my kendo, especially for testing, what I started noticing lately is that a lot of times they will say, I did a good job, not when I hit, but when I make them move before the attack, right? So maybe sometimes I don't even attack because I got nervous or whatever, but they're kind of rewarding the fact that I understood how to make the person kind of open up. So now it's become like a game for me, or maybe game is not the best word, but it becomes kind of like this thing where when I'm waiting for my Jigeiko, I'm watching and seeing, okay, is this person going to hit, or is this person gonna get stuck, right? Because it happens a lot, and especially when there's 2 different levels of ranking, the lower rank wants to get that opening, and the higher rank is kind of resisting that to push them to do better, right? And just having that ability to put that pressure and make the person go or something, right? That's what you need in order to get the shinai out and figure out, okay, where the opening is. And another thing, and this is maybe another side of the advice, is that maybe you don't want to get stuck on saying I can only hit men, right? Because sometimes they just keep doing this, and then there is or they drop the shinai, right? They drop the shinai, they wait for you to start coming for the men, they put it up, and then you get stuck. That's another way to do it. So in this case, maybe men is not the way to go. Maybe kote men is the way to go. Or, osai or toshi men, something like this. So that way you can hit the shinai out and then keep that opening to go. But at the same time, just experiment and try it different ways. Because although that person may be doing it to teach you a lesson, or maybe doing it because they're lazy, or maybe doing it because there's no opening or whatever, but it should be a learning opportunity for you. I'm getting stuck here. What can I do to not get stuck? That makes sense? Okay, you said very useful. Thanks. So I'm guessing that was good. So thank you very much. Let me see. Roxy, you said thank you. That makes sense for what I said before. Thank you very much for your clarification and for your support. So Jan is saying to get close and snuggle with the Yodan player. Actually, that is very true. A lot of times, do I have a long suka here? Let me see. So maybe this one is a little bit long. Normally I use longer tsukas lately, but So a lot of times Jodan players are using a long Tsukagawa. So if they do that, sometimes, and even for Jodan players in general, because they're so eager to come back up, they kind of neglect Hikiwaza. Not in Japan though. They definitely don't neglect it in Japan. But that's something to keep in mind. Normally, closer distance becomes a little bit more comfortable for them too, especially if they have that longer Tsuka. Sometimes maybe Morote Kote might be uncomfortable for them. Definitely, Katate Waza kind of starts becoming a little bit, you know, difficult for them. But you also got to remember that they also have the ability to change, to use both hands on all their techniques. What makes it harder for them too is how they're gonna do that fumikomi. So you also gotta keep in mind that, you know, they have to switch feet. There's many things that happen when you close the distance. So closing the distance can also be a very good approach to them. But the main thing is just you have to experience with them. I feel that outside of Japan, many people lose against Jodan players, not because the Jodan player is better, but just because the Chudan player is not used to fighting against Jodan. So experience is the best thing you can do. Even if you can have somebody at your dojo kind of just try it out for a couple times, so you can at least see it and do this type of things. It's a good experience for me, at least I think. Ayu, do I have any advice for upcoming Shinsa? What rank? What dan? And I did that last week too for like Nidan. So maybe you can give me a little bit more clarification. Maybe I should do a section of the stream where I'm gonna say like, Kendo Shinsa tips or Kendo tips for Shinsa. I don't have to make it sound more appealing, but you know what I mean. Yeah, let me know what done and we can talk about it. Okay, Jodan. Oh. Okay, so this is what I was talking about when it comes to maybe training one kote and then going for the other side. Let's kind of study this one a little bit. So you see he's been putting pressure on that kote. See, he saw that the Jodan player is going back. Maybe he didn't see it. Maybe he's just acting out of instinct. But you see, the first reaction for the Jodan player was to bring the left hand back. And then he went for that kote, which I thought it was nasty. Look at that. Look at that bend right there. I don't know why he didn't get that point, though. Maybe the Sanshin. Yeah. It's very difficult sometimes to get katate waza. So yeah, maybe the Sanshin kind of messed it up for him, but I think it was beautifully performed. That was risky to have the Shinai under, coming under, but it worked, I guess. It worked to keep him safe. Okay. Wow. So this is one of the weaknesses of Jodan players, is that their recovery can be slow. So if you get them to bring the sword down, you have a good shot. Now, here, it was very risky, and this is something that, for me, right now, I'm practicing more. The ability to have a forward momentum, but then switch to do a hikiwaza without necessarily any subaseriai, right? So here, you see that kind of White is already kind of going back a little bit early on. So I don't know if he was trying to kind of bait him to come in, or he was just naturally going back, or he felt pressure. I don't know what's happening specifically there, but making the Jordan player comfortable, making the Jordan player comfortable to attack, and then being prepared for that attack is crucial. It's I mean, maybe it sounds too simple or like easier said than done, right? But in this case, I feel that White is kind of blocking any other opening because he's not reacting by going up. And then instead he's going back and taking opportunity of that lack of, I don't want to say sanshin because it's not like there's no sanshin, but maybe intensity in the footwork to come forward, right? So, and also something that I'm working on myself specifically, look at the back leg of the Jordan player, right? So when he pushes forward, it's almost like he's not pushing forward, it's more like he's pushing up, and his body is kind of bent. It's a little bit hard to kind of gain momentum when you have this posture. It happens sometimes, the pressure of the heat of the moment. And, you know, White definitely capitalized on that. He had his footwork ready to do that. That being said, you know, like he kind of had to like push himself backwards pretty hard in order to avoid getting hit. But then he was ready with that Fumikomi to go backwards. Very cool. So in this case, if you see what's happening here, White is trying maybe to give pressure, but at the same time maybe he didn't feel confident because he was about to block up, and as we talked about, it can be a very vulnerable position, and he's holding this position where it's very tricky, right? Because Jordan player can maybe go for that Gyakudo at this point, but at the same time, if White is ready, he can just go forward and hit men, right? Which is another reason why Do is a little bit dangerous against Jordan players. That being said, he keeps putting pressure forward. He lowers the hand. He lowers the hands. I mean, he put both hands on the shinai, and then when Jordan player wants to come in, he's kind of already kind of anticipating that he's gonna come for men, so he's dodging the head. And you see he's putting that pressure, coming in and attacking forward, keeping him going backwards. This is what you want to do against a Jordan player, right? You want to kind of get him frustrated, keep going back, and just not being in his zone. And then he goes for that ski. And also, what I like about this ski is that he closes the distance after. Whether he misses or not, he closes the distance. That way he's safe. This reminds me of something. Yesterday I was talking. Well, it's not I was talking. I was more like listening. But I was in a conversation where they were talking about. Okay. So yesterday in the competition that I told you that I participated, I got hit in kote outside of my kote, right? And the chimpanzees gave that kote. And we were kind of, jokingly discussing about it. And then the sensei started talking about the shimpaning. But then they said, well, one of them is Hachidan, by the way. The Hachidan sensei says like, well, for the Hachidan test, and I found this very interesting, for the Hachidan test, they're looking for different things. They're looking for your timing, they're looking for, your accuracy and what's it called? Your ability to control the opponent. But for the timing, they consider from your wrist to your shoulder to be a good striking area, right? If you hit with good timing, that's considered to be a good approach. Of course, sometimes you miss whatever. And the other one was for the head, like this square, it's considered to be a good approach because obviously sometimes people do this and then you miss because they took the head out, but you still get, not gonna say that you pass, but you still kind of get like, brownie points for making it into that zone because you had good timing and, you create an opportunity. So I found that interesting. Do with that information as you wish. Just wanted to bring that up. That's the purpose of this stream, right? To share everything I can with you guys from my experience here. So, very dynamic approach, I think, right? He puts pressure, and comes in. It's a very, one thing that I'm realizing more and more here is that we're giving a set of basics footwork, but you can most definitely go outside those lines when it comes to doing your footwork. So it's very interesting to see how here the red player comes in and look at the footwork. So he pushes, steps in, and then throws the shinai down, and he does the fumikomi with the left leg and come in. But if you look at the back leg, look at the force where he brings the back leg with, right? Like the back leg is almost like, how do I say this? It's almost like he's throwing the technique as he's doing an okuriashi and then doing the fumikomi to catch his body. Right? So it's not like he's throwing the leg with the technique like normally we do in basics. So, but when you look at this, there's nothing wrong with what he did, right? He has good synchronization with the body. If he would have connected, most likely they would have given the ippon. And it's so interesting. And somebody told me about this, and it's about the fact that when you throw your technique, like you need to have kiken taichi. So a lot of times people see it as kiken, like the thigh, instead of being the body, they focus so much on the foot. But the fact is that you can have kiken taichi with the foot hitting at different places or not hitting at all. So just something to keep in mind. Very good follow through. Look at that. And look how tiny the steps are. This is the key, guys, to good, strong and fluid footwork. If you can do tiny steps like that fluidly, look how quick he regains his balance and he's ready to go again for another technique, right? He's not ready necessarily because he has the sword up here, but if he needed to, he's ready. Obviously, he's not back into his kamae, but he has stability as he's going forward. I don't know if you heard me before, but if you want to clarify what rank for Shinsa you would like to get a little bit of tips, I will be glad to share some of the tips I might have. Oh, for second key. Okay, cool. Give me a second. This kote is very, this Tsuki is very dangerous, right? Because now he's in a very vulnerable position. Maybe the Yodan player at this point could have attacked, but interesting enough, he immediately goes in to try to do a kote. So it's very cool how he closes the distance and he tries to keep himself safe in order to just not get hit, right? I think this fight went to Encho. Yeah, it just it just says. Okay, let me make a quick break so I can talk about the comments we mentioned. I saw before. Okay, so advice for second cue. Okay, I know it can be stressful, but second cue, as long as you do everything you've been told, I feel that you can pass. And what are those things? So first is to put your uniform properly and your bogu correctly, that your bogu doesn't come off during your test. It's very important. Um, Study the way to come in and out of the the shinsa area, right? Like the bowing and all this stuff. So that way you're not lost, you're confident as you come in and understand the instructions that you're going to be given. So that way, because every country sometimes have different things to do, right? Sometimes they do kirikaeshi and then some basic techniques. And so some countries do a little bit differently. So keep in mind all these things. The other thing is not about how hard you can hit. They're looking for correct technique, and correct technique involves good posture, good ki, good follow through, um, and your ability to understand distance as well. You don't want to come in too close and then hit too deep, right? You want to hit. I hate when this happens. I don't know why. If I put, okay, so hold on, guys. The camera for some reason gets stuck when I hit. When I put my thumbs up, it does this thing where it just goes up. So I'm gonna switch this camera for a minute, and at some point, that camera will reset. So, yeah. So you want to have good posture, a good approach, and you want to come in with confidence, good ki, good follow through. A big one is that after you go through, you're gonna have a good follow through, and sometimes your opponent wants to do good follow through too, and they just go to the end of the court. So when you turn around, I think it's very important to come in kamae, prepare, walk in with intention, not just okay, I'm gonna go back. What else? Just do what you do in your regular practice. Keep in mind all the tips and advice that your sensei has given you, because it's very important to make sure to do proper technique. It's not gonna be about who gets more points, um, who does the better, like who's the fastest. It's not about that. It's all about what, like, doing your proper technique, having your proper uniform correctly, and coming in and being confident, good ki, and show your best kendo. That's it. If you have any specific questions about something you're hesitating with, let me know. Let me try to reset this camera. I need to figure out why this thing does this and how can I turn that feature off, because I do, if I put up my thumbs up, sometimes it does this thing and I just lose the camera. Okay, it's not there. Okay. Avi, you were talking about, do you have any advice for to focus points this few Keikos before nationals? So I know this is the cliche one, but I didn't follow it myself for the WKC, and it's don't do things new right before your Shiai. Go with what you know. Um, Work on your best techniques, and then work on how to get an opening for those techniques. So, I'm sure many of you here are familiar with the term Tokui Waza, your favorite waza or the best waza. I keep looking at that camera because that's the camera that I normally use. So I'm sorry, guys, because I had that snafu here. Sometimes it takes a while for this thing to kind of reset. Um, Anyways, you want to do maybe you're familiar with Tokui Waza, which is your best technique, the one that you maybe feel the most confident. But also you have to use sometimes some throwaway Waza, and I don't know if that's a I don't think that's a technical term, but throwaway Waza is not that you're gonna do a fake Waza or you're gonna do a Waza to kind of like kind of feint or anything like that. Is you want to have other techniques besides your best technique, so that way you kind of like prep the person for your best technique. So let's say that your best technique is kote, in the sense of you have good impact, you're very quick with your kote, but the opponent you have, it's always covering that kote. So what do? You have to get them worried about that man, and then you can try different approaches. And then as you try different approaches, maybe you could get that man. If you get that man, well, pretty cool. But if you don't get that man, you can start prepping them, thinking, okay, he's coming for man, and then mix it up where you can do you know do an opening for man and then go for kote. Does that make sense? So work on your best technique and the ways to approach to get into that technique. And why is that thumb up keep coming up? Okay, I figure. Okay, I thought it was a feature from my camera, but I guess it's a feature from OBS, so I need to go figure it out and turn it off. Okay, so I hope that clarified that. Guys, for anybody that joined in recently, please hit the like button if you could. Let me know you're here. If you can, it helps the stream go out to more people, but also lets me know that you're here. But if you could comment and let me know where you're watching from, that would be awesome. And if you would like to join the Discord server, the Kendo Tips Discord server, the link should be coming up. It's on the chat right now, so you can join the Discord server. And if you would like to send a message or you want to meet more Kendo people, feel free to join it and meet people there. Augusto, welcome to the stream. Thank you for passing by. And Sebastián, desde Chile, saludos. Ok, gracias por dejarme saber de dónde vienes. Ok, we continue with this Jordan match, which went to Encho. We're watching the match as a way to understand different ways of approaching Jordan players, or for Jordan players to approach Jordan players as well. So you see, there's a lot of movement, and this is interesting, right? You see, there's a lot of movement, and he's trying to get him to bring the sword up, and then he goes with one of the most dangerous techniques for Jordan players, which is morote kote. See, he almost got it too. Avi, why is Encho the worst as a Nito player? You should be saying, like, that's awesome. I don't know if you've seen that Matthew Raymond Sensei fight in the World WKC. I think it was like 30 minutes, right? 30 minutes, Encho. At the same time, he's a freaking mountain. So, he's so tough, dude. Andy, good morning for you. Well, good night for me. So thank you for passing by. They don't let you rest for the next match. That sucks. But get off with that science here, like more lactic acid. It's all mental, bro. It's all mental. You go and do kendo for what, like an hour and a half each practice? You should be used to having those hands up there. I'm teasing those skill issues. There's no skill issue, bro. You're good. just the fact is that you start talking to yourself negatively at those moments, right? Um, yeah, this is a good approach to do against young players, right? So you see sometimes young players uh, do get nervous and start doing things outside of the box. So having the ability to adapt to those things and take those opportunities is really good. This one almost made us an ippon. Oh, see now the Jordan player is not. He's I think maybe starting feeling overwhelmed because he's coming in now. He's doing things differently, and the Chudan player now is backing off. So it's this kind of like you want to try to get on top of the person, but at the same time you have to be careful not to risk getting hit. Uh, so just quickly to note, so although this is a team match, team tournament, they were doing, I think it was like a 2 minute encho or 2 or 3 minute encho. So it was interesting because they were trying to do it where there was a clear winner. Um, Again, guys, like if you can find this uh, next year, like a stream of this, or you have the opportunity to watch it, I think it's cooler to watch. I mean, I'm not gonna compare it to the old Japan, but okay. So the little labels came up. I don't know why. Ah, okay. The fight was over. So this is definitely a good tournament to watch, guys. If you have the opportunity to catch it live, catch a stream, or you can pass by and watch it. Very good tournament to watch. I wanted to watch one more video with you guys just because I find this one very interesting. Um, Let me try to see if my camera now is back to life because I keep looking at that camera. It's uncomfortable. Nope. Maybe if I disconnect it for a second. 1 second, guys. Let me see. Okay. Let's see what happens. Nothing happened. And yeah, nothing happens. Okay, that's it. Not gonna waste any more time. Sorry, guys. Caitlin, welcome to the stream. Thank you for passing by. Okay, you see, I keep looking at that camera. I hope it comes back. Thank you for passing by. Okay. Where was I? Where was I? Okay. So, oh, now I don't have a camera here. What's going on? Okay. Now we're here. There we go. So this one is with Eiga Sensei. This is, I think, the most recent one that I uploaded. Just gonna let you watch. Eiga Sensei is Eiga Sensei, so it was so cool to see all this high level Kenshi and all this famous Kenshi all together in one place and watching them fight back to back. So I really like how Ega Sensei fights for the center. And it's like he always has a response to anything. I think maybe this Kaeshi Waza is, I think, maybe some of his favorite Waza. Um, and for me, it's very interesting to see how he has so much stability on his body position, and at the same time, he's always engaged and ready to go around and to hit a technique. So it's always just so cool for me to watch him fight. Although I have to say, I feel like it's a little bit more calm approach than he has done in the past several years. But still, I mean, maybe he's just trying something different. His sword moves so quick. Yeah, Caitlin, like he's always ready, and that's something that I'm working on. Um, this is something that I'm putting a lot of effort for myself. Is every time I take a step, can I not only have the ability to move without adjusting, but also can I project this to my opponent, right? That I'm about to go in, I'm about to attack. So they kind of, it builds up tension on them. So yeah, this has been my goal, and I'm clearly trying to put some together to make a video about that. And this is not the All Japan tournament. This is the East versus West All Japan tournament, and what they did is a team competition, East versus West. So there were people, I think, from Godan and above. Kunitomo was there. Um, Takenuchi was there. So like, so for the younger players, and then obviously you have like the older players. So you have a good balance. So you get to see Kendo on the same day. You get to see Kendo at different stages. So it was very cool experience. I think in the All Japan channel, the YouTube channel, they have this full tournament. Okay, this is the ippon. This is the ippon that Ega Sensei does. So I posted a short on this, and I posted it on Instagram, and it gets a lot of comments on this. Specifically, the comments are on the Sanshin. So I want to play one more time. So he does men Kaeshi men, right? So for me, it's very interesting to watch this. I feel that, in a low level tournament, if you were to do this, maybe you wouldn't get the ippon, right? One thing that I have to say for me, in my opinion, is that he does the man. He does a brief sanshin, because I don't think sanshin has to do with the length that you do it, right? Ideally, I guess if you want to be textbook, you want to have sanshin and be aware and be forward, and prepare until the shimpan raises the flag, right? But at this point, it almost looks like he's just not caring. But I don't think that's the case. I just think that this is just the way that he came out. And maybe he felt secure that he had a point. Maybe he felt secure that he didn't have the opponent in a good position to attack him. And that's why he didn't overreact. But I think it was a flawless hit. Oh, sorry. such a good hit. Now there's one Shimpan that didn't give the Ippon, um, and I really don't know if the reason for that is because of the Sanshin, um, just because he brought his sword down and he didn't give. So maybe it's debatable. Um, in the past, I do feel sometimes that Ega Sensei gets a little bit of kind of in psychology we call this the halo effect, right? Like people expect good things from him, so maybe this could also be a thing. I think as an Ippon itself, it was a great show. Yes, I would like to have better Sanshin, or not better Sanshin, a little bit more um, awareness, or not awareness, because I'm not gonna say that he wasn't paying attention, but more intention against the opponent until they call Yame, because anything could happen, right? So for us, we want to practice that readiness until that moment, until the Yame. So many times in tournaments, you see people, they kind of like, oh, they hit, they think they got a point, they start walking back into the center, and then boom, they get hit. It's like, oh, what happened? No, you weren't ready. So you always have to kind of keep that in mind. You want to have that readiness in order to be safe. But at the same time, this is Hachidan level tournament, Hachidan level Shimpan as well. And he felt confident that was enough for the Ippon. I don't think anybody's going to take that Ippon away from him, because two of the Shimpan gave the Ippon. One comment that I got on the video that I really like was that this could be a technique done with real sword, right? Like this is like real fighting, uh, like real sword fighting type of technique, and I found that very interesting. A lot of times, I feel that people kind of see Kendo kind of like as a what's it called, stick play, like stick fighting type of thing, but for many of us, I don't know if that's the case for you. Maybe you want to let me know in the comments. But for many of us, the way I was trained at the dojo is that my shinai is a sword, and I was always told to treat the shinai as a sword, with the respect it should have, as if I'm carrying it, and also as when my opponent has it, right? So you want to keep in mind, or you want to have that feeling that you're fighting against a sword, although we're using a tool that's going to allow us to keep practicing, right? We're not dying from a shinai. Well, could happen, but we're not trying to do that. So those are kind of things that I think are very important for the mentality of Kendo, because it's not just about hitting each other with sticks. And for me, this is very important, and is one of the reasons why Kendo is still a budo and not just a sport. It could be a sport, but it's thing more than a sport. You see, and this is kind of where we're talking about Ega Sensei being ready at all times. You see, he takes this little step forward. His opponent comes in. He kind of does like, oh, he's going to go back, but he doesn't. He puts pressure back with the shinai, waits for that reaction. And as soon as the opponent engages in a technique, Ega Sensei is ready to go forward. Maybe he kind of anticipated that the opponent was going to attack, so that's why he threw the shinai out to the side, and then he goes in. Now, I'm going to say this, I think, and that's why I say that maybe for Ega Sensei, Kaeshiwasa is his favorite technique. Maybe the way he moves, the side he favors, this can be a very protective approach, right? Because he's putting the sword out to the side, and then trying to catch the sword. But at the same time, guys, if you're going to try to copy this, you got to be mindful, because you can have a lot of problems trying to do this. First of all, if you're going to challenge a man and the man is coming straight, you always are going to be behind. So that's why you want to try to kind of pick your battles and when to use this type of things. That's such a strong ki as well. You see, it's hard to approach him because immediately he has a counter. But at the same time, he's being like his opponent is being reactive, right? Oh, this was a very good approach. So he took advantage of the fact that kind of Ega Sensei had a little bit of a mistiming there, but very good approach. Oh, let me see this. So this is very cool, very interesting. Something to keep in mind, guys. As you approach your opponent, we tend to tense up, especially our shoulders or arms. And the first thing to go is the shinai, the first thing to move forward. But in this case, both of them are being extremely good about this, where they're bringing their body in and then throwing the shinai. Ega Sensei starts moving the shinai forward, if you watch, but the first thing that moved was the right leg. He did take a step where he puts his weight briefly on the right leg, but you see he's keeping that momentum, that motion going with the body as he's moving the arms. Caitlin, what do I think about their foot positioning? Your son teaches you to have the left toe begin at the end of the right heel, but you met other senses. They recommend you to have a longer stance. It's a confusion as to which to do. Okay. I'm gonna stop it when we have clear vision. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna give an answer as soon as we get a good vision of both of them in full kamae. Okay, they're in an angle. Ah. One second. Okay. Maybe here. So, if you watch here, at this position, both of them are entering. Okay, let's talk about. Let me see if this camera. Give me 1 second. Let me see if this camera is back online, guys. Because you will look. Nope, it's not back online. Okay, it's okay. So let's talk a little bit about distancing. Let's talk about distance and the footwork. So let's talk about the distance of your feet when you're in kamae and as you're approaching your opponent. When you're at this distance, right? You're still okay. When you're at this distance, you can kind of say, okay, you're safe. Even if your opponent is coming in, you're going to have enough time to counter your opponent. As you're coming in, you start in a little bit more danger zone. But this is extremely hard. Not hard. This is kind of far to do it as one-step technique. But if you're going to do it as a one-step technique, you have to have your feet very close together so that way you have a better reach. As you start coming in closer, closing the distance, the feet, the closer they are, the longer you have. The closer they are, the longer reach you have. But at the same time, you can start moving that forward leg to start giving a little bit of pressure. So a lot of times, especially when we're watching videos, we see what we want to see. But if you watch here, both of them are having their feet very compact right now. And you don't see them separating the feet until they start adding pressure or putting pressure on their opponent. So I'm going to try to go frame by frame here. So here in this case, Ega Sensei is going backwards, so they're separating a little bit. But he's still... So look what happens here. His opponent, we couldn't see the footwork of the player on the left, But we see Ega Sensei that he kind of went backwards. So he made a little bit of distance with the back foot, but still kept his presence, with the right foot forward. So in this case, if his opponent comes back, his back foot is engaged so he can attack. So he doesn't have to waste the time, but he doesn't have to waste the time by bringing the forward foot backwards. But at the same time, he wants to keep that presence. He wants to keep that pressure against the opponent. He doesn't want to just give all that ground in, right? And as he's coming in, you see he's slightly trying to put more pressure by separating the legs slightly, and then he throws himself into the technique. So the kamae is not that you want to have your kamae wide open. You don't want to have your kamae with a lot of separation, but you want to use that distance to create pressure with the opponent. So, of course, there's going to be a sweet spot where if you're too close, you feel uncomfortable to move. If you're too far out, then when you push, most likely your back leg is going to flip up, or you're not going to have enough power with your lower body to come in with a strong technique. So you want to have a good positioning with your feet. So the idea in my mind right now, the way I'm practicing right now, is that I want my standard kamae to be with my toes, as you said, the toes of my left foot around the heel area of my forward foot. But as I'm putting pressure, I am trying to take ground with my right foot. And when I'm ready, when there's a position, when there's an opening, when my opponent is trying to come in, I come in with my technique. It's a little bit hard to kind of visualize that here without a better camera that I can angle down on my feet. But I hope that makes sense, because it's very important to understand that kamae is not just one. Kamae is a little bit fluid, and depending on where you catch the freeze frame of the fight, the kamae might look a little bit different. The spacing on the footwork can be a little bit different. But ideally, what you want to do is you want to have the ability to understand how far you need to go, and having that back foot engaged at all times, and using the right foot to kind of create that pressure and gauge the distance, mostly with the back foot. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of confusing. But at the same time, if your sensei is telling you, because you're going to see, for example, very athletic and young players have a wider stance. So that's something that happened to me when I went to Osaka Police, right? A lot of them have a wider stance, but at the same time, they're standing a little bit different than the way I was standing. So their back leg was much more engaged. And I do have to say this. I've been corrected by these players at the Osaka Police that you do want to have a more relaxed and a little bit wider stance in when you're doing for shiai. Okay, I don't want to be misquoted. I don't want to be misinterpreted. So let me think about this properly. So you want to have a little bit more relaxed stance, maybe with a little bit wider, but in order to have a little bit more forward intention towards your opponent. But you cannot let go of the engagement of the back leg, because you have to learn to push with your back leg, and the movement and the power coming from the ground up, rather than having a wide stance and then the first thing that goes is going to be the hands, going to be the upper body, or it's going to be the head. That's what you want to avoid. I'm actually going to talk more about that on next week's stream, because hopefully by then I'm going to have the videos of my shiai yesterday. And I did make that mistake a couple of times, so you guys can learn from my mistakes and hopefully make your kendo better. Anyways. And next week we can also watch Teramoto Sensei's fight, because I don't think I have time for that today. Sorry, guys. So you see, Ega Sensei brings the back foot forward when he wants to come in and close the distance so he can have a longer reach. That's another point. That's a very interesting point. if if you have to attack pretty much on the spot, it is easier to do so with a lot more power with your body by having a little bit of a wider stance. If you're gonna go far, it's better to have the feet close together, right? But if you put the pressure in and then your opponent is already coming in, it's pretty much kind of like your kamae becomes kind of mid lunge. I don't know if that makes sense. So you can do maybe like kote men or kote, or like the men that Nabeyama Sensei did earlier on. It's a little bit easier to do it with a little bit wider stance. I'm not gonna say that you want to have a wide stance. I'm saying a little bit wider, just because it allows you to kind of have a little bit more what's it called, momentum for, or forward intention. Because as you, and this is very important, as you make your stance wider, the first idea or the first thought to do it is by also putting your weight forward. You want to keep your balance, keep your weight on your back leg, and that forward leg should be almost floating, not really pressing down on the ground. It's kind of be on the ball of the feet, ball of the foot, rather than having the foot fully down and kind of resting on that leg. You want to have it almost floating. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, let me know if you have any doubts, any questions in the comments. Okay. Guys, if you haven't, I'm gonna put the link again for the Discord server. If you would like to join the Discord server and meet other Kendo people, wanna message me, that's a good way to do it. The link is in the chat. And if you would like to become a member of the stream, support the channel, and get a couple of extra perks, please, you can become a member by clicking the link that's on the chat right now. So I think also the opponent is maybe frustrated at the way that Ega Sensei is handling him. In Kendo, hitting somebody can be easy. Oh, it's a very good attempt to that Tsuki, right? Let me just say this before we watch that again. In Kendo can be very easy to hit somebody, and at the same time can be very hard to hit somebody depending on that person. So for example, when you're fighting against a beginner, okay, let me just say this one more time on the screen. So in Kendo, when you're fighting against a beginner, for example, you can sometimes make a lot of mistakes and not really get them. It might be really hard to get them because of the off timing they have. If you're having this trouble, normally when you start putting pressure and you get them to react or to do something, then you can get them. But a lot of times when you're trying to just come in cleanly and hit a technique, it might be very hard to do it against a beginner. So again, hitting somebody can be really easy in Kendo, or it can be really hard. And same thing happens when you're fighting against higher level, depending how that person is reacting, depending how that person is moving, protecting the center. We talked about earlier about Mukai Tsuki, and there's different things that can make it complicated for you to get a clean hit, but at the same time, depending on the type of Kendo that a person have, might be really easy. So I think Eiga Sensei is very good at understanding how to move and how to handle the situation to make it really hard for him to get hit, because he reacts, but a lot of times I feel that even if he overreacts, he kind of corrects himself into coming to the center. So the key for us here is going to be every time try to practice your reactions and try to manage your Kendo to always come back to center. So putting the tip out and keeping it out becomes a problem, but sometimes you can put the tip out and bring it back to center, and it can work as a, like a kaeshi, or it can be like a harai or suriage. It depends obviously on the scenario. But if you train yourself to always go back to center, all this can make it harder for your opponent to hit you and give you more opportunities for you to have opportunity to hit your opponent. Hope that makes sense. Oh, before I end the stream, I'm gonna tell you guys a golden kendo tip that I got today from Sensei. So, guys, I don't know if I mentioned it like maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I have the official kendo guide for kendo instruction somewhere here that I cannot find it, but in there it kind of talks about how to open, how to be motodachi and give certain openings for specific techniques, right? So like for men, you kind of move out of the center. For kote, you bring the sword up a little bit to the side. For tsuki, they say to bring the tip down. And this is one of the golden opportunities to use tsuki. Sometimes this can be confusing because you might think, oh, men is what's open, but that can also be a bait, or it can be, it can be a setup for them to do kaeshido. So I think Ega Sensei here throwing the tsuki on this moment where the opponent drops the shinai, I think it's a very good eye, very good catch, and a very good opportunity for him to throw a technique that he almost got. His opponents are like, I can do it too. But you see how Ega Sensei always comes back and tries to get the center and tries to dominate the fight. I think it's just very cool how he always comes back to center, how his stability is, and how he just managed the fights overall. Anyways, what I wanted to say today, golden tip I got today. It has to do with, okay, I was practicing with a sensei that he's very good. He's very good at hitting men, and you see, it's kind of hard to do it with this camera. Let me see if this camera came back. Sorry, guys. Nah, almost. I don't know why this keeps happening. Let's see. Come on, camera. Don't let me down. Okay. Well, anyways, I'll do it here. So, maybe I can move this here a little bit and go here. Okay. I was practicing with a sensei that he's really good doing I man, just coming for man, Tebana man, and today we were practicing over and over and over, and sometimes he'll get me, sometimes I'll get him, and we were going back and forth. And one thing that he noticed to me is that I was focusing too much on swinging the sword, right? Like, so hitting, like swinging the sword to come in for man. So instead, what he proposed for me to do is that instead of focusing on the swing, just punch forward, right? And as I punch forward, it's not that I'm doing the man like this, right? I'm still getting a swing on it, but instead of kind of bringing the sword up like this to then bring it down, it's just setting it up a little bit easier by punching forward and then throwing the tip towards my opponent. So it's kind of hard to do it in this angle, so sorry that I don't have the proper camera for this, but the idea here is that instead of wasting the time and the energy to bring the sword up here to then bring it down, it's going to be one movement. Your tip moves because, sorry, let me move this here. Your tip moves because it's the right hand is serving as a rotation point here, and then just by squeezing the fingers you can bring the tip down instead of bringing up and then pulling down the sword. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me it made an immediate increase in speed. So a lot of times people ask, oh, what exercises can I do to become faster in kendo? And I don't think it's about exercises. I think it's about making your techniques more efficient, your kendo more efficient. And for me today, that was one of the things that I think I need to make a video about. So guys, if you have any questions, if there's anything I can help you with, please let me know in the comments. If you haven't, please hit the like button. It really helps the stream get pushed out to more people. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. That really helps the channel grow. I mentioned earlier, and it's in the chat, the Discord server. If you would like to be part of the Kendo Tips community, pass by there. It's a good way to message me. If not, Instagram too. It's also a great place to send a message. And if you would like to support the stream, there's also the what's it called? Let me see. You can also become a member, so you can click on the membership, and you can also see the extra perks that you can get for becoming a member. Lucky, you say it's a punch forward and squeeze at the end. You're working on this currently, but it's really hard to do under pressure of Shiai, and you lift instead way too often. Yeah, so for me, as I started doing this, the main thing is to what's it called? Feel your fingers, feel the shinai. Actually, if you guys know George McCall from Kenshi 24/7, actually he said this specifically about feeling when you're in Jigeiko. I'm not saying doing this during Shiai because you can become overwhelming, but during Jigeiko, it helped me a lot to kind of feel my fingers around the shinai, right? So as I am in Jigeiko, I'm trying to figure out where my shinai is based on how I'm feeling them on the finger. And then my mindset right now, especially after today's explanation, is that I want to punch in. And as you punch in, instead of bringing the sword down like this, the tip is the one that you have to move. And you do this by squeezing the bottom fingers, right? So maybe here's easier to see. So instead of bringing the tip down like this, right? Like this is not no flexibility here. I'm just squeezing the fingers, and I'm not even pushing. I'm not pushing my hand this way. My hand is kind of following the shinai because the shinai is the one making my hand move. So I think this is a good practice to do. It's not about this. This is just punching forward and go. So as you punch in, the tip is gonna move up, and then you squeeze to bring the tip down, and you squeeze in both hands, obviously, right? And you do it briefly. Another thing, and is that if you're here and you have the habit of doing this, look what happens when you do this. If you twist your arm slightly, you immediately engage the shoulder. So if I'm like, you see that, I hate this camera. Sorry guys. So if you're here and you're attacking here, you can put power onto your sword, go through, and then have good follow through and good power. But if you switch here, you immediately tense this up, and then what ends up happening is now all of this becomes one piece. So number one thing, if you get pushed here, the whole body's gonna come out. Here, at least you can keep the body going forward, and there's no so much stiffness here, so your whole body doesn't get affected. The other thing too is that as you do that, then your kendo becomes this, and that's when you get this type of hits where like they hit and they kind of like hit and slide like this, right? So, and also another thing that can be dangerous if you do this, and you can just try by yourself, right? Like you immediately gonna feel how the shoulder rotates as you do this. Your elbows should be down, not out when you hit your man, right? And if you rotate here, especially when you're fighting somebody that's shorter than you, they can go underneath you and then get under your shoulder, and you can actually, they can push your shoulder up and maybe out, and it can be very painful as well. So you have to be careful with that, not to do this. You want to keep your elbows down. So I hope that wasn't too much in such little time and kind of in a rush, so that way you get all the information properly. Please let me know, and I'll try to make a video about all of this. I just need to get organized and figure out a way to make it more entertaining, so that way YouTube pushes it out to more people, and I can get a little bit more efficient in making these videos as well. Um, yeah, let me know how that works out, Lucky. And Cypress, good tips. You'll try them tomorrow. Cool. Let me know how that goes too. Um, Again, there's a lot of details, and being here in Japan, seeing people train, for me is cool in several ways, but the main one is to see, okay, I like that footwork and I like that strike. I like this thing here, I like this thing there. So I can constantly watch it and remember and remind myself, okay, I'm working on this, I'm working on this, I'm working on this, I'm working on this. And that has been a big help on fixing a lot of my mistakes. But at the same time, it gets very frustrating because it also shows me how much of mistakes, how many more mistakes I have. So yeah, it's good though. It's good tough. I really like that. So very humbling experience, especially when you go against senseis that you can see that you're faster than them, but at the same time they're faster than you. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's because they're much more efficient at moving than I am. And I try to come in a lot of times with a lot of confidence, especially when I go against Hachidan senseis, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do good, and then yeah, I didn't do good. Oh my god, next time. So that's my training life in Japan. Um, but I feel I'm getting good comments, and I feel like little by little how um, my mistakes are becoming less, and I am getting more power and more speed the way I want it in my kendo. So I'm very happy for that, and I hope that I can pass all these things down to you guys, and you can improve further your kendo, and we can make kendo better, stronger, and more popular outside of Japan, because we need that. So if you want to get stronger, we need more people doing kendo. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for passing by. Again, please feel free to become members of the Discord server, so that way you can reach me, you can meet more Kendo people. If you guys are planning a trip to Japan, it'll be interesting to know where you're going, and if we can get a practice together, that'll be awesome. Okay, guys, if you haven't, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Share this channel with people you want their channel to improve, and let me know if I can help you out with anything. Okay, guys, thank you very much for passing by, and I'll catch you next week. Bye, guys.